So for whatever reason, you found yourself in an argument against feminism.
Who needs a reason to smack down bullshit?
But here's the thing, your argument sucks.
We haven't even heard it yet.
Let's start with the most basic shutdown against feminism. Feminism is sexist.
Well, it is. It teaches young men that they oppress women by virtue of existing. That literally looking at them, i.e. the male gaze, is oppressive to women because it makes them feel bad. You don't think that that's a little sexist to tell young men that they are hurting women by virtue of being? I guess you don't. Obviously, you wouldn't be a feminist.
You've come to this conclusion because you've been taught that sexism is basically the prejudice, stereotyping, and discrimination on the basis of sex.
Are you about to tell me that's wrong?
Right. Before I even get into this, I just want to state that it's impossible for the oppressor to be the oppressed.
If only you had an inkling of self-awareness, you would understand why people are against feminism.
That's the nature of oppression. Being offended by something is not the same as being oppressed by something. So bearing that in mind, quite simply, sexism is a form of oppression. I am not saying that men don't face negative stereotyping, and I am not saying that men don't face prejudice and oppression in society.
No, but you are setting yourself up to say that.
However, only oppressed people experience all of that, as well as it being institutionalized and systemic.
Called it.
Here's how your argument wouldn't have sucked. If you're discussing sexism within feminism, it should be about how some parts of feminism could actually be really problematic for trans people, as well as people who don't assign to any gender and people who are gender fluid.
Those young men being potential rapists, fuck them. You guys have penises, so why should we care about you? No, you guys have penises and you feel that you should have penises, and thus you are an oppressor, and that's why we don't care about you. Is that right? Is that what you're putting on the table? This is why people don't like feminism. Except you haven't figured that out yet.
A lot of mainstream feminism at the moment needs to work a lot harder on being more inclusive. But men can get raped too. I can't stand this argument.
Is it because it's other men raping them?
You have to be a certain level of horrible to pit victims against each other, whatever gender.
If only you just had a small bit of self-awareness. See, the reason why people say men get raped too is because a lot of people don't care about the fact that men get raped. If they did, no one would need to bring up that very obvious fact. That's the problem. The problem is feminists solely focus on female victims of rape, and they don't care too much about male victims of rape. That's why people bring it up.
Also, I find that people use this argument a lot when discussing rape culture, and actually they don't quite know what the discussion is about. I want to handle this the right way because feminism supports all victims of rape.
Yeah, but only if those victims happen to have vaginas.
But in the context of why your argument sucks, we are fully aware that men get raped too. We are not ignorant.
Yeah, you just don't care. Are you picking up what I'm putting on the table now?
What we were actually discussing was rape culture.
Well, ironically, rape culture originally referred to prison rapes. It originally referred to the fact that men in prison get raped and it's normalized, not the overarching society. Because when you take it out of that context, it becomes absolutely absurd, considering the fact that everybody hates rapists. Rapists themselves probably hate who they are. Probably. I mean, I could be wrong there, but I'm not wrong in the fact that the overarching society here in America, in the UK, are not fond of rapists.
So, not the act itself. Rape culture is when you ask victims what they were wearing.
You hear that, police officer? You are a part of rape culture when you're trying to figure out what happened, what was the scene, and what was going on. I mean, seriously, you know, the few times a girl has ever told me she's been raped, I never once asked her what she was wearing. Mostly because it wasn't relevant, and I'm not a police officer. Most people don't. In fact, most people just automatically believe a woman when she says she's been raped. Now, the reason why I believe the girls who told me was because they had no reason to lie. They weren't going to benefit from it, and if they would have told someone, it probably would have helped them out a lot more. But you know, the whole bunch of psychological problems like low self-esteem and all of that led me to think why they didn't. So I understood it. The point that I am making is that people don't ask that question. Police officers do. And they're doing that to understand the situation, to find a pattern, and to figure out what was going on. They're not doing that because they think that what you were wearing really has that much of an effect on how you were raped. They're doing that to see if there is either a pattern or to understand the scene that they're trying to study. That is all it is about. Come on.
Are they flirting beforehand? Asking if they possibly had too much to drink?
Now that's just a reasonable question. That doesn't even have anything to do with rape culture.
Whilst anyone can get raped, rape culture predominantly affects women.
Again, how ironic is that originally the term applied to prison rape. And also, you know what, I'm just gonna say that. Keep talking.
Men do not get asked if they were showing too much skin.
You're right, because people don't care about men getting raped. When a man gets raped, he just kind of has to deal with it.
Rape culture is currently ingrained in society.
You know what else is ingrained in society? People not giving a shit about men whenever they have problems. I know, I sound like an MRA right now, but does that make me wrong?
There are people that would never rape anybody, but sometimes their actions and sometimes their words might contribute towards rape culture. Here's how your argument wouldn't suck. Every single rape prevention tip is geared towards people being in charge of not getting raped, not teaching rapists not to rape.
Well, would you imagine that? Whenever it rains outside, people ask me, how come you didn't wear a raincoat? How come you didn't bring your umbrella? How come no one ever says, hey, how about the clouds just not precipitate? Why are the clouds even releasing water?
So there's the big problem. The other problem in that is that most of these tips are aimed at women, with colour changing nail varnish for example.
God forbid people care about women. You know, it's interesting, the mind of a feminist. Only a feminist can hear that people care about women and somehow make it sexist. The reason why people give women advice to avoid rape is because they care about women not getting raped. If they wanted women to get raped, they wouldn't tell them how to avoid it. Common sense, man.
There needs to be more done to prevent rape for everybody, such as those glasses that change colour when they detect a substance. That way everyone can be safe.
You know, it's true I've been mocking you and being incredibly snarky, but that's actually a pretty good idea. Really is.
That's just my opinion. Before any argument, you're going to have to show that you know what you're talking about before your opinion is valid.
You know, again, you're not wrong. You're actually spot on.
I can tell you that I think socks have emotions. That's just my opinion. It doesn't make it true. Most of the time this has been used because you said your piece, somebody else has come back with personal experience or references, or anything really, and because your argument doesn't extend past that's that, then you swiftly state that that is your made-up opinion. Instead of saying that's just your opinion, try saying, I thought of this, but I'm not going to do any research on this, because I feel like I am right.
Or maybe you can reply, well, I have done research on this, and it has shown, objectively speaking, that this to be the case. Your experience only shows the, X small, I'd say 3% of the time it happens, while my objective research has shown that 97% that this be the case. I'm sorry, you are arguing with the messenger. Why don't you go talk to reality about why this is the case? That's what I usually do when people try to argue with me. I tell them, hey look, I have studied this shit, and I'm sorry, but reality's not on your side. And I know it makes me sound incredibly arrogant, but I'm sorry. Reality is usually on my side.
Please do your research, because without it, no one has a leg to stand on. I am so sick hearing about feminism. Shocker, so are we! Please help us not have to talk about this all the time.
Well, we've tried. We've tried telling women to become responsible and to be like men. In other words, deal with your problems instead of appealing to the government to do that. A lot of feminists aren't fine with that, with telling them to fix their own issues. I mean, we've tried. We've tried to get women to be like men and deal with their shit, but they don't want to. Women would rather have men deal with their shit, so...
Well, I'm a woman and I don't find that offensive. This is quite a hefty topic about internalized misogyny and...
Really? A woman doesn't agree with you and she automatically has to hate herself? Well, newsflash. A lot of young ladies that exist right now hate themselves, and it has nothing to do with feminism. It's just, I don't really know why. I think it's just kind of a standard issue with ladies nowadays. They just come with low self-esteem. I don't know.
And that is a whole other video. Your argument sucks because you do not speak on behalf of all women.
The whole of the feminist movement claims that it speaks for all women. Those signs that go around and say end catcalling and stop catcalling says that all women, or at least the vast majority of them, don't like being catcalled. when that actually isn't the case. Some women enjoy when men compliment them, whether they actually have sex with that man or not. I mean, seriously? You seriously going to tell me that when they don't agree with you, you can't extend your experience to the overarching majority of people? But when they do agree with you, then it's perfectly fine. Is that what you're trying to tell me right now? Because that's bullshit.
Neither do I. Neither does anybody. Except maybe Beyonce. When you say this, you're choosing to ignore the negative ramifications that this particular thing might have on other women. You may even be overlooking the negative ramifications this could have on you. Either way, it's a really selfish argument. I can't tell you how to feel about things, that's up to you, but don't throw everyone else under the bus in the process.
Or maybe, now just maybe, they're trying to get you to see something from a different perspective. Whereas a feminist would see catcalling as being offensive and being very horrible and tragic and sad and threatening, another young lady can say, well, I'm not offended by it. I think it's rather nice that some random guy would like to talk to me and try to make my day a little better. It's a different perspective. They're trying to challenge you on it. That argument doesn't suck. They're trying to tell you that, hey, maybe you can look at this a different way. Or maybe not. Maybe they just hate themselves, right?
Yeah, but what about men's rights? Men already have all the rights.
Is that fucking right? So, if I got a woman pregnant, and I asked her really nicely, I said, hey, look, I mean, can you not get an abortion? She's not gonna sit back and say to me, hey, it's my body, my choice, I can kill this thing if I want. I mean, women are the arbiters of life and death. I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
I think people use this argument a lot because it's hard to see just how something affects your life until you don't have it.
Then maybe you can understand why a lot of men are sad about the fact that they can't see their children. I mean, after all, they don't have them. Because the court system's biased against men.
I'm middle class and white. I come from extreme privilege, and if it wasn't for people talking about it, I never would have thought about it. Because when you're privileged, you don't have to think about it.
Did it ever occur to you that maybe, now just maybe, that those men aren't privileged and that's why they said the things that they said? Is it possible that now, just maybe, these men aren't oppressed, but they don't have the same rights? Is that possible? Did you think about that? Of course not, because if you did, that would require both empathy and some inkling of self-awareness.
Also, men's rights movements that are around now don't even care about men.
I can't wait to hear what Dr. Random McCam has to say about that.
That's what really pisses me off. Being fair, any movement that sets out to help people is a good thing, right? The problem is the men's rights movements do not support male victims of rape.
I wonder how Dean Esme is going to deal with that comment right there.
They do not support male domestic abuse victims. They don't support trans men.
I think you just might hurt Karen Straughn's feelings with commentary like that.
Do you know who do support them? Feminists.
Not all feminists. Isn't there an entire, acronym? TERF, Trans Exclusionary Feminist? Does that even make any sense? TERF? Wouldn't it just be TIF? Trans Exclusionary... It'd just be TIF. It'd just be TIF. I guess TERF sounds better.
Feminism is ruining movies.
Are you talking about The Force Awakens?
/series/comics. This argument gets rolled out every time something gets launched with women in it.
No it fucking doesn't. That argument comes out whenever someone tries to retcon canon in order to put a woman in the spotlight when it's completely random and makes absolutely no sense. There are plenty of comic books that star women in them that have nothing to do with feminism and that are great and fantastic. Okay, just the other day I finished reading this comic book called Journey. It was about this half-genie princess traveling the country to go find her mother. I thought it was a great comic book. I read volume 1 and 2. Didn't think about feminism one fucking time reading the damn thing. Get out of here with that bullshit. I was reading Silk the other day. I enjoy reading Silk. I wish Silk was still working with Peter Parker. I thought that was cool watching Spider-Man and Silk fight crime, but whatever, that's cool. She has her own series. Get that bullshit out of here. People only bring that up when they think feminism is actually ruining comic books. As in when they retcon history or they insert some minority character out of bloody nowhere to make people feel good about themselves versus actually creating a good story to read. Out my house, that bullshit.
Basically. Why is it totally fine to expect women to enjoy and relate to things that involve mainly men, but as soon as more than one woman comes on screen, we're taking over?
No, it's when a woman only looks good because in comparison to a weak man, she looks great. That's people's issue. You know, you only get a strong female character because she's compared to a weak male character. And that's a little bit of an insult to women, don't you think? Women are only as good as the worst man. I don't know, don't you find that a little insulting, ladies?
It's how your argument wouldn't suck. Just injecting female characters into a film or a TV series and not spending the time developing their characters or even writing them not only ruins the movie and the TV show, but also puts a massive hindrance in women in the industry, and it's crap.
So you are talking about The Force Awakens?
That means I can hit girls, right? Don't hit anybody. Why do you want to hit people?
Because they hit you first numerous times while everyone around you laughed. That's why. Although, honestly, even if it was okay for men to hit women, I still wouldn't do it. I'm just not really a big fan of fighting people who offer no challenge to me.
Is it like really hard to live, restraining yourself from hitting people all day?
No, but it is really hard to live when people have the right to beat the dog shit out of you while you have to stand there and take it.
You're using this argument as a quick way to put feminists in their place, to make them think that this isn't actually what they want.
Yes, because it accurately shows that that is not what they want.
The other thing is that you're already hitting us.
I don't know about us. Because, I mean, if you're in an abusive relationship, you do know you can leave that, right? Not every man is putting their hands on women. Not every man has a desire to do that. However, if any man put their hands on a woman in public while other men are around, he's probably going to get the dog shit beat out of him. If a woman puts her hand on a man in public, people are either going to laugh or ignore it. But men have all the rights. Okay, we got all the rights. The right to get our asses beat and not do anything about it.
In the UK alone, 1.4 million women and 700,000 men are suffering from domestic abuse. So we want you to stop hitting us.
And the simple solution would be to avoid relationships with controlling dominant men who treat you badly. But it's not always that easy to pick that stuff out, and lots of people stay in abusive relationships for a myriad of reasons. See, the real issue here against domestic violence isn't really so much of sexism. It's not really men or women against each other. It's people in a toxic relationship staying there with you. I mean, that's not an issue that feminism can fix. That's an issue that people in those situations have to fix and deal with. It's not an issue for feminism or for MRAs. That's an issue for two people in that relationship. One of them either has to leave, they have to get help, or they gotta get that nigga in jail. And by that nigga, I mean that woman who's doing it or the man that's doing it. That's not an issue for a social movement. It's a very intimate thing that happens between two people. They have to solve that. Of course, they can get help, but a social movement's not gonna stop crazy fucking people from getting into relationships.
Not all men. If we're discussing something about men and it's not something that you have particularly done, then that's great. The reason why your argument sucks is because you have to understand that many men have done this. A majority even.
Fuck you. Oh, fuck you, fuck you. Fuck you, fuck you. Fuck, 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 fuck.
It's always sucky to have to acknowledge that something that you're a part of has bad bits, but that's just life.
No, I have no issue saying that that man over there is a rapist and he deserves to go to jail. I have no problem with that. I have every problem with saying that all men are rapists and that they should stop having sex with women. I have every issue with saying just looking at a woman is oppressing her with my male gaze. I have all the fucking issues with something like that. I have no problem acknowledging evil. I have every fucking problem with saying that every man is oppressing every woman by virtue of existence. Get that bullshit out of here. Because that's all it is. Bullshit.
So stop driving conversations back to you because it's not about you. This argument gets used a lot when women do things to protect themselves and are a bit defensive. As we mentioned earlier, rape is up to us to stop.
Of course, if I walked around saying that all women were whores, I'd be sexist and people would mock me and call me a MGTOW extremist or whatever the bloody hell they come up with. However, if women say that all men are potential rapists, that's perfectly fine, because all men have the potential to rape. Of course, it would be equally true that all women have the potential to be whores, but it's wrong because it's women and it's okay because it's men, right? Is that what I'm getting?
And that's when they say, but not all men. Like, you may not be a rapist, but you've got to acknowledge why women do certain things to protect themselves.
I acknowledge it. I even encourage it. However, within reason. You can't block yourself off away from getting into a relationship with a great man because he might rape you. That's the point of self-defense. In case he should try it out, you can kick his ass. You can't close yourself off to every person who has a penis because of what, I mean, a small fraction, no less, of people who have penises do. And not even then, rape is something that also happens to men, and women also have the same capacity to do it. Just differently. So, it's not right. Rape is a problem for human beings, not a problem for women. And to indict all men because of what a small fraction of them have done is just as wrong as not talking to any woman because you think all of them are going to extract your resources and they're all just dirty whores who don't care about you. I mean, we can easily acknowledge that it's wrong to call women whores and sluts and all of that. But no one wants to acknowledge that it's wrong to say that all men are potential fucking rapists.
You can't take these actions personally because there is a much bigger picture than you. The thing with all these arguments against feminism is that if you wanted to have a proper discussion about it, you would have Googled it.
I very clearly am not the target audience here because I have. I've researched for second and third wave feminism, and apparently we're on the fourth. And I would argue, objectively, that feminism, unto itself, has done nothing but destabilize society, has put women in a terrible situation, and has done nothing to hurt men and demonize them. I mean, I would go in to explain that, but that would be a whole other video for another time.
You did your research, but you didn't, which makes you an arse. I didn't mean to attack anyone in this video, I just wanted to show you just how ridiculous these arguments sound.
It is indeed true that I was rather snarky and a little angry at times. It's because I've grown sick of this bullshit. Not sick of you, I don't know you. You know, it's just, I'm just kind of tired of people indicting lots of young men and treating women like they're frail little flowers who can't deal with their own issues. You make men look like they're villains, and you make women look like they're weak, and then you want to say that it's men's fault for that. I'm sorry, it bothers me. I apologize.
And I know there's tons that I missed, which means they'll probably end up in the comments, which means, much to your excitement, I will do another one of these. But generally, you should just research things that you're talking about, and if you don't know anything about a subject, don't weigh in with your opinion.
Remember what you said about the men's rights movement? Pot calling the kettle black on that one.
And maybe just trust what people say about their own experiences. Just kind of simple stuff.
We have reached the end of her video and subsequently the end of mine. So that being said, man, I certainly hope you guys got something out of today's video. And if you did, man, go ahead and click that like button. Go ahead and click that subscribe button. Comment in the comment box below. And as always, have a great day. I will see you cool cats soon. Adios.